welcome back to the Alpha Tauri Speedrun. We are about to start Season 2. And as some of you noticed last episode, we have hired our new staff for a few more seasons than intended. It seems that whenever I was offering them a contract, they snuck in an extra season in there. I didn't notice, honestly. So that is why our new staff is going to be a bit of a pain. But we're going to start a new season, then we'll go over that, and again, the annoyance there. It's going to be expensive, but it's a mistake because I didn't realize it. They were kind of being cheeky. So, welcome to the new season. We are going to review the regulations, the engine, and negotiate new obligations. So, let's just get the sponsor obligations out of the way here. We do not care for race hospitality, let's face it. Decreasing pistol performance for 25,000 for a race just isn't worth it. I don't understand why you want to force this onto us. Maybe a room event, honestly, again, doesn't really matter. Driver appearance, that is paused. Now, we could potentially send Rick here out to get a little bit extra cash. But I think we're just going to go with the 10. That's fine. And as you see, driver control performance rating will be reduced. So we're still going to put that on Sonoda, I think. But again, I really would like to just... Well, we're going to actually sacrifice Rick. Nah, we'll put it on Sonoda again. One for each. But again, there's no point in having this because it's going to make you so much more likely to crash. But at the same time, you don't get anything for it. That's the thing. If you want to, if you want to put this on the driver, it should actually have a, you know, a reasonable gain. But this is actually just going to be, put very likely, a net negative. It's not a sponsorship; it's a punishment. Now, merchandising is kind of an interesting one because we could merchandise, say, just a little bit, get a little bit extra money per race. We also don't have the highest starting balance at just 15 million, and we are going to be developing a lot next year. Honestly, I would have liked to save up a little bit more money for this, because it is nice. As you can see, we paid 3 million up front, and we end up getting a 1.6 million gain. So in theory here, we paid 3.3 million, and over the course of the season, we're going to be getting about 5 million back. So we make a 1.6 million profit here. But because of, well, the current money situation, we're just not going to do that this season. Probably going to do it next. Just save up money. Could be a really, really good thing to do. But at the same time, we need that money to develop at the start of this this first season. So we're going to get a pre-season lump sum of 35 million, 2.3 million income per race, which is okay, a little bit lower than what we expected. New season objectives, 7th or above. I assume these were the old ones, but we'll see. Balance here, money-wise, we have now 41 million in theory, I would assume. That should be... good. We are going to have to pay money for the engine though, so that will be lowered down to 20 million. And the technical changes, let's have a look at how they actually affect us. We did do a little bit on engine cooling and airflow, drag reduction for the chassis. We did not really get the low speed downforce here, combated for the front wing. For the rear wing, same deal. We lost a little bit of low speed, gained in the other areas. For the underfloor, we just barely cancelled out the low speed one, but we gained a large amount of medium speed, a large amount of high speed, and of course we gained airflow and drag reduction expertise, which is nice. And for the suspension, we probably did the worst. We didn't even cancel out the medium one. We did cancel out the high one, so we might need to focus a little bit more towards suspension this season, which honestly should be okay. The financial aspects of things, no real changes here. Sporting aspect, I believe we have no real changes here either. So yeah, we're ready for next season here, and hopefully we'll be able to perform well. Now, when it comes to your powertrain, there's one very important thing to keep in mind. Your acceleration is mostly dependent on your engine. So unless you're running Red Bull, maybe Ferrari, I haven't tested it, but unless you're running a Red Bull engine, you just won't be able to get enough acceleration to become best in that stat. So we're going to run this. We're going to have negative cash, but I believe we're going to get, as I said, about 20 million in total. So we should still be kind of on the positive side. We are rehiring, resigning, getting some new stuff, and as you can see, yeah, about 20 million. So, as I said, the stuff did kind of fool me last time around because the contract length went up by 1 every time they denied it, which is kind of silly. So, we are just going to have to, you know, deal with these people for a while. If we are going to be breaking contracts, it's going to be very expensive. But I think it should be okay. Again, we'll just keep the development unbalanced here. Although, to be honest, downforce is probably going to be our most important stat. Ground effects could work too. But I think we're just going to go with grip and traction, try and get these downforce modifiers up. For our technical chief, of course, what we want to focus on in the underfloor and the front wing, rear wing first. It isn't too bad, honestly, but of course we could have gotten a better one, but that is a little bit unfortunate. Now, our spawn director is already pretty good, so we are, of course, going to keep him for reason not to. Probably going to renew his contract too. But yeah, we're ready for the first season here. ATR starts, and we'll see exactly how we're going to be using that. Last season went pretty well. It's lost of the pit crew performance, about 9 points. So again, this shouldn't really be a problem. Speed will get back up to maximum pretty quickly. And compared to last year's cars, we lost a little bit of acceleration, a little bit of DRS, a little bit of high speed, and a little bit of brake cooling. Generally, we should have a pretty good starting point here once we start developing parts. Now, first things first, we are going to get the pit crew in back in shape, so to speak. Putting their training in. And we are going to be focusing on pit stop time again early in the season, and then we'll be switching over as we go. So let's get this into gym training. And again, early in the season, it's perfectly fine to kind of abuse, so to speak, your pit crew. Apparently, we have already put in a little bit too much. Abuse your pit crew with a little bit of extra training, because as long as you get that down below tied before the first race, you will be good. Yeah, it was still good. Error chance is going down. There we go. So we are going to have to do these 2 gym trainings, and then we should be okay. Yeah, generally, as I said, your pit crew develops fairly quickly in this game. So I wouldn't be too concerned about being a little bit aggressive on the training. It'll be okay. So this is what we're going to be doing the first month. Again, car building isn't too much of a focus for me. And as you can see, because we're going to where the chance of mistake is going to go up over the course of this month. But if we have a look here, these are the stats we kind of worry about. We want to max them as quickly as possible. This is pretty much perfectly fine. And if we have a look at before we get weary, we're basically going to be able to, during this month, cut our chance of making mistakes by about maybe 1.5 to 2%. That is very much acceptable. Now, with the car part development here, we are of course going to be making pieces. Our first race is in 53 days, so we want to kind of balance it around that. Underfloor is probably what we invested the most in last year, so it's going to be our first order of business. And we are going to be sacrificing a little bit of dirty air tolerance this year. Don't need too much of that, really. And honestly, again, top speed doesn't seem to be that vital. It seems to be better to have better. It seems to be more important to have better cornering stats. So what we are going to do here is probably tune this down a little bit, like so. Get a little bit better cornering. And as I said, we're going to tune down durability to the maximum. With that, we are going to be doing standard projects this year for parts that have gotten pretty high on the expertise gain. As you can see, this is the basic one, which we haven't done anything with. Drag reduction is already at 83%. Airflow sensitivity is already at, again, 83%. So with that in mind, we don't really want to do intense here, because the higher you go on the expertise, the less value you're going to get out of intense, because intense is a 1.5 modifier. But the higher you go, the less you gain for each. So while intense is still the quickest, in terms of money to expertise gain, the higher your expertise is, the less you're going to be getting out of that money. So we're going to be doing standards. Might be doing a few intense projects for the parts that have fallen behind, the suspension, side plus center chassis. For anything that is high above, say, 70, probably doing standard is going to be the best. And from just a purely efficiency perspective, doing standard designs is going to be the best way to improve your car in terms of expertise to money. But doing intense designs for your first few projects when you're starting out can really help you give that little bit of extra boost to get you up to fighting the other teams a little bit quicker. Now, rear wing is probably also something we'll be making, and once again, we'll be focusing it into speed. As you can see here, we'll be gaining a little bit here on the drag reduction side, reducing a little bit in other sides, and I think we are going to be sacrificing again a little bit of that dirty air tolerance. It doesn't seem to be super important. If you have a quick car, following other cars, you'll still be able to just kind of power by them. And the rear wing here is 65, as you can see on the drag reduction, the DRS delta. So we are going to be putting some wind tunnel hours into it, get a little bit of a boost there, and we're going to be making 2 rear wings here pretty rapidly. Now, in terms of what we want to focus on in terms of cornering, I think the current setup is good, and we'll probably switch it up a little bit for the second edition. Now, this rear wing we could run intense, but honestly, the money is a little bit of concern right now. You might find that a little bit funny with 90 million in the bank. But we are going to be making a few additions of most parts. and that money is going to quickly run out. So also money is concerned on the, as I said, intense versus standard. If you have very little money, doing a standard design for every piece before you start, focusing intense into say just your underfloor could be a good idea. For this one too, we are about 60%. Not super good, but not bad either. And for this one too, we are going to be lowering the air sensitivity slightly. Brake cooling is still going to be fairly important, but we're just going to do this. It's going to be a small upgrade, but it's going to be okay. We could of course also say focus on the low speed corners aspect mainly, or the high speed corners. But I think for now we're going to make a pretty basic wing. That is probably something like this. Basically a low speed, medium speed cornering thing for the future. And we're going to lose a tad brake cooling here, but that's fine. So the airflow, we tune this up, we can get even more low speed cornering. And that is what we're going to do here. So brake cooling is going to suffer slightly, dirty air tolerance is going to suffer slightly, but I think this is a good front wing for us to have early in the season. So we'll take that. Once again, we'll just do normal with one engineer. And we'll redistribute our engineers later to cover up all of these. Now, chassis take the most time to make with 10 days. So we're going to be putting some effort into getting that done early. Because depending on how you set up your chassis here, you can make one that is massive, particularly for the high-speed cornering ability of your car. So that is exactly what we're going to do. We're going to be losing a lot of speed, potentially. But I think the gains on particularly the high-speed cornering aspect is going to be worth it. And we will tune down engine cooling for the chassis, because we can regain the stats from the side pod. The side pod will be making up most of our engine cooling. So for this chassis, we're going to go all in on getting that high-speed cornering ability up and running. The medium speed, as you can see, the gains here are massive. So your chassis is really, really a good source of getting cornering. It can also be a really good source of getting speed, but for the purpose of this, we're going to be focusing cornering over speed for our design choice. Again, we put one engineer on it, and with that in mind, the chassis will be okay. There's 53 days until the next Grand Prix, so we'll be able to make 2 chassis for both cars. We can leave one engineer on it. If we want to speed something up, it should probably be the underfloor, and we could put just 6 engineers on it. We aren't going to be able to make any other pieces before that first Grand Prix, so the goal here is basically just going to be to cut down on time. We could, of course, do something a tad bit cheeky here, because again, these two take 3 days to manufacture. We should be able to get both of them done before the race. What we could do is put one engineer on the chassis, quicken that up a little bit as well. And keep in mind that the engineers can cut down the time by about 50% if you place 5 additional engineers on it. So with 6 engineers here, it's going to take basically 2/3 of the time that it took if we had just one. That makes sense. So that is what we're going to do design-wise. Currently, our car, as you saw, isn't the best. A lot of our performance last season was from specializing parts, and it was also from running minimum durability. If we were to compare ourselves with Red Bull right now, who is first in everything but low speed, cooling, and top speed, our car would be kind of suffering. We're about 0.60 points behind in low speed. We are about the same behind in medium. We are about the same behind, well, 0.070 behind in high speed. But if you take consideration that chassis we're making, that's going to propel us beyond this. But of course, Red Bull could also develop their car. So we'll see where we're at once these developments are done. And that should be good. We actually have a thing here where we can complete the underfloor sooner, and we're actually going to do that because I think that allows us to make maybe a suspension for the next race, which is going to be massive. Team rosters, Leclerc, Sainz, Verstappen, Perez, no changes for these two. Stroll and Alonso, no changes there. Ocon, Gasly and Alpine, no changes. Russell and Hamilton, no changes. Same here. Show, gone to Williams instead of Sargent. Piastri, Norris, no changes. Bottas has got a new teammate in Schumacher. So basically just one driver move. Show that allowed Schumacher to come back. So technically 2, but you get what I mean. One new driver that wasn't on the grid last season. Formula 3 driver roster. Again, I'm not too familiar with this, so we'll just have a quick look. If anyone sees anything out of order, please let me know. But yeah, looks like we potentially have some new gen talents here that we can use down the line. And for Formula 2, Trident would probably be a pretty solid team here with their lineup. But yeah, gonna see exactly how that goes. But yeah, we could complete the underfloor sooner. We're going to be paying 400,000 to get it done 8 days earlier. And honestly, that is worth it. And this early in the season, it could definitely, be worth it. The sign is going to be completed super early. Victory is exhausted because we're running them pretty hard. That is fine. Scouts are being idle. That's also fine. We are going to be manufacturing said underfloor. And we're going to be making probably 4 of them, I think. That should be okay. Now, because we do want to manufacture things for the race also, we're probably just going to make 2 for now. And then we'll be managing the manufacturing slot a little bit closer. Because we only have 3 of them. Honestly, upgrading the factory to level 4 would make things a little bit easier for us. So we might do that also in the near future. Now, what we want to make is either suspension or side pods. Side pods take 35 days. With the engineers, we can probably get one of them out in time. So we're going to go with that. Lifespan to the minimum. And once again, we are going to be sacrificing a little bit here of... a little bit of drag, potentially, to get the other stats up a bit. So, once again, we could make a sideboard that is generally just focused on the high-speed cornering ability, which means that we should probably focus more on low speed on the others. We could also do the opposite, have one that is focused on low speed, but as you can see, that isn't really a big gain. So, I think what we are going to do is make a high-speed focused sideboard as well. Sacrifice a little bit of that top speed again, and get a little bit here into the engine cooling aspect as well. So we're going to be making this one, and that should be perfectly fine for our purposes. Now, with the maximum amount of engineers, we'll be able to actually manufacture just 1 for the race in Bahrain, or Sakir. So we're going to be doing this. That should be perfectly fine. Chassis has been designed. We want to, as I said, manufacture 2 of these. They're going to be taking a slot for the rest of, well, until we're in the race, basically. Excuse me, I got hiccups. So that is fine. We can then start on the suspension. And the suspension should probably be brake cooling and, if anything, low speed cornering. Now, we're going to be losing quite a bit of, you can see there. Drag reduction if we do this. But we're going to get it almost 10% brake cooling. We're going to get a decent amount of low speed cornering there. Going to bump us up quite a bit. As I said, top speed doesn't seem to be vital in this CS game at all. So we're going to sacrifice top speed again. But as I said, we can probably start focusing the rear wing completely into just top speed and DRS. And that should make up for the losses that we've had so far. With the amount of high speed we're doing, this is not really a problem either. And yeah, this is what we are going to be going for. We could, of course, maximize it even further. It would cost us a little bit of brake cooling. But I think it might be worth it again. 0.0.5. This is basically what we're behind Red Bull currently in terms of low speed cornering. So we're going to go ahead and make that that suspension. It's going to take us 40 days, 37 days. So we'll have it for Australia. Maybe if we move some engineers around, it could be okay. But again, we are using them on the side pods. So probably not going to happen that we get this made before Melbourne. But we'll have to see. Maybe if we move all the engineers over when that side pod project is done, we can pull it off. Alpha Test Center has been upgraded again. This is probably one of the most worth it buildings, mainly because of the monthly upkeep being low. Because the monthly upkeep is going into your cost cap. So the higher this goes, the more of your cost cap is going to be going to that. But as you can see, the engine and brake cooling in particular in this game, where it is actually quite vital. The engine cooling alone is maybe going to save us an engine, extra engine buy. It's definitely worth it from an upgrade perspective, I feel. Also, the extra drag reduction, DRS delta for the rear wing, and of course, the downforce is going to be kind of huge. Now, as you see that all of our facilities now are running in poor condition. We are going to be losing some stats as a result, but considering the cost of refurbishing these, I think we're going to take the stat loss at the current stage. I think that is fine. And as I said, we probably will be upgrading our factory in the near future, just to make our life a little bit easier. The cost and monthly upkeep isn't too high, and it will allow us to, as I said, have that extra slot, which will make our life a lot easier. Basically, that is why. Driver development update. We have Tsunoda and going up in smoothness. We have Rick going up in adaptability. And honestly, smoothness is probably the best stat in this year's game. I've run a couple of tests on it. I had a video out yesterday on the pace stats, cornering, braking, and reactions accuracy. Basically, braking is slightly better than cornering, and reactions accuracy does what it's intended, consistency. But smoothness allows you to just run so many more aggressive strategies. Lawson here also levels up, and honestly, with that in mind, we might actually want to change our driver development here from short runs to long runs. This might actually be the best now in terms of just driver development. Again, cornering, braking, accuracy are nice stats, but again, the smoothness is just so nice this year because you can run very, very aggressive strategies, and it actually has a huge effect on you. So we're going to do that for both drivers. We're going to do the same for Lawson, put him onto long runs, and that should be perfectly okay. Now, pit training schedule for this month. We have maxed out our, as you can see here, our pit stop time, so there's no need to focus on that. We can put the gym training to other purposes. Of course, you are going to be losing some time, some pit stop time over time. So just make sure that this number doesn't change between months, and you should be fine. Now, in terms of car building here, we are going to tune that to pit stop drills. I wouldn't worry too much about car building until, again, we get our error chance down. But that is, again, personal preference. You can, of course, focus on what you want. Nothing that is inherently wrong in how you do pit crew training. So they're going to be very wary here. So we are going to have to cut down on a bit of training. Don't really want them to be in that wary zone. That's going to be bad for us. And being well rested on this Thursday is perfectly fine, so this works out. Now, because we are wary, we have an extra increased chance of, making errors, but by the looks of things, we'll be able to cut down our mistake chance by about 5%. We'll basically be down to 5% by the end of this month, which is great. And in terms of the stats, we'll be maximizing jacks. We'll be probably gonna have to see, are we doing any jack training? We are. So let's turn this to, say, car release, because that's the one lagging most behind. And that's the thing here. These schedules will still focus on things that you have maximized. So now it's looking a little bit better, a little bit more balanced. And next month, we should be able to potentially just straight up maximize our pit crew. So that is going to be okay. We're still safe for Bahrain. So let's go ahead and confirm that pit crew training. And we will just continue. Now, as I said, the staff did kind of fool me there because I didn't expect the season tick to go up every time they refused a contract. I would assume that's a bug, or basically they might renegotiate with you, but they didn't do that in 22, so I got caught off guard. That is, of course, my own mistake. Underfloor manufactured. Stop. We need to manufacture. So I think we're just going to have to gamble on those two underfloors because we are going to get a lot of the signs done pretty soon here. 3 days, 5 days, and 5 days. So we're going to put one of those slots on front wing and rear wing. It's going to be rough getting both of them out in time. And we're going to do one slot on the side pods. So yeah, we might be in a tad bit of trouble here. Phoenix rating improves, which is nice. Sponsors via IP experience, 3% payout for the successful guarantees. 2% penalty, 2 times penalty for unmet. We're going to approve this. It's basically extra money, unless of course we are being very unlucky. So rear wing, we are going to manufacture 2 of these immediately, and that should be perfectly okay. 10 days for the Grand Prix to start. We might not actually get that, well, we should actually start a new project. We might actually not get that side pod done in time, because we have to make a decision here. Do we want to have the new front wing for both cars, or do we want to have the side pod for, say, one car? I think we're going to put in a side pod here. Just get 4 of them made immediately, or rather 3. And as I said, we are going to need to upgrade our manufacturing capabilities. Having a factory level 3 is probably going to be all we'll ever need, but it should make our life a lot easier from that perspective. Now, in terms of what we want to design next, again, we are going to be focusing mainly on catching up on the parts that are lagging behind this year. So we will make a side pod that is kind of focused on the low speed cornering as well, allowing us to put this on if we really need to. But again, it's mainly a design that probably won't be manufactured. It's basically just something we'll do to try and increase our expertise. Now, we could, as I said, save money for the factory, but if we can, we should try and keep all 4 the line slots going. Now, for this one too, we could make a, a reverse one. That is basically speed, acceleration. Again, we could use this in races if we kind of need to. Pure acceleration build for this chassis. And I think that's fine. If we have a race that we need the extra kph, the extra acceleration, we can use this chassis in the future. And for our final design here, we are going to make a rear wing, as I said. Because remember, we did put all of our ATR and CFD time into that rear wing. And you're going to just see how effective that was just now. So this is our rear wing. Remember, we got about 10% last time around with a focus onto DRS effectiveness. Now we're getting a huge 15% boost, 0.62. And as we tune these up or down, that is going to be even more massive. So let's say that we do not want to focus any cornering ability at all. Focus purely on speed, which is what we're basically going to be doing here. And compared to our current rear wing, this is going to be a huge upgrade that's going to propel us to first place in DRS. With the losses we put into the other stats, this probably will not actually be a boost. We'll probably still remain around this. But 20% increase in DRS effectiveness, basically, 16, 16, 24 here is good. We even don't lose it out for dirty air tolerance. So using that, the time here has been really, really good to us. And with 29 days, we can get both rear wings done for Melbourne. And this is going to be a huge increase. So we're going to go ahead and get that in the oven. Now, the way that using CFD and wind tunnel time works, because as you saw, that was a massive upgrade, is that it does add an extra expertise gain. It's still balanced across the board, but it's still a massive increase in the expertise of the part. So definitely worth it to do. Now, because we are making another wing, I probably did do a bit of a mistake there. Just making 4 on this first one, but that is honestly okay. Yeah, let's go ahead and manufacture. Yeah, let's go ahead and manufacture 2. We could do 1 rushed. It's going to cost an extra 100k, but I think it's going to be worth it. And then we do it 1 normal. Again, usually I wouldn't recommend doing rushed, but for this, just this time, it's okay. The wings are also the cheapest one, so with that in mind, it is not a completely bad idea. Hamlin increases performance rating, which is good. We did actually just make 2 rear wings, so that is going to be fine. Let's see here. We are making front wings, making rear wings. Yeah, making side pods. So I think we're just going to make those 2 more underfloors now. I think it's okay to get them in the oven. There we are. So this has been a pretty lengthy already, just preseason, but you actually have a lot more to do here than you had in 22. A lot more to balance. So it's looking good because you can do a lot more project. Murphy has low morale. That's okay. We'll deal with that as we go. I think I did do a mistake here though, and yeah, I did. The manufacturer aspect, we didn't get that extra front wing made. So we kind of did waste money, unfortunately, but yeah, that's my error, and I'll own up to it. It is what it is. So for the chassis here, we're going to be putting, let's just have a look at our car now before we start putting on parts. Currently, we're ranked basically pretty close to the back of the grid. Again, acceleration is mainly just the Rebel engine. So the highest we're ranked in any other stat is 13th. And for cornering it's 13th, 15th, 17th. So let us put on those new parts of ours and we'll see just how massively we're going to be jumping up the grid here. Now, we're going to be giving Rick that front wing. He is probably the most likely one to win the championship for us. So we are going to be investing in him. And let's have a look here at what we're looking at. Suspension is what we didn't get in time. But with this, let's see how we're looking now compared to the rest of the grid. And our car is beautiful. Rick currently, with his car, is the best car in terms of acceleration, DRS, medium, high speed, and, well, second and low speed. We are lacking very much so in brake cooling, engine cooling, the dirty air tolerance. But again, for this year's game, dirty air tolerance is basically how much time you lose behind another car. If you're already quick, it won't affect you too much, and that is basically the philosophy going for here. Same with heavy top speed. It is kind of important, but most of your overtakes are going to be with DRS anyways. So it's not as important as the DRS effectiveness, as the acceleration, honestly. We're kind of making up for our weaknesses with this, the Rebel engine. But cornering, I think, is going to be the most important factor in this game for your car performance. Now, we want to check car 2. Tsunoda's, and as you can see, it still has a way to go. It is still the best in acceleration, DRS, and high speed, but we do need to get those upgrades going for him to have a little bit better chance in low speed and medium speed corners. So it's looking really, really good here for the first race. So let's jump into Bahrain and see how we do. I'll get to practice, get to quali, and we'll see how we stack up throughout those first few laps. Alright, we have a great start to the season. We just finished, well, P2. And as you can see, we're missing some car parts for Tsunoda. So Tsunoda has already destroyed a front wing. Luckily enough, it is of the old spec, so it's not a huge deal. But as you can imagine, that isn't, well, it still isn't great. But at the same time, we didn't get a penalty. Piastri picked that up. I'm currently doing the first practices here kind of manually to try and get the car parts knowledge up. Get a driver satisfaction pretty good. And generally, again, I'll be going through this with probably a guide in the future as well. But it should be looking good, yeah. It's just a minor incident, but it doesn't bode well when we already had accidents in practice this year, when we were so lucky last year. So let's see how this goes. P3, another front wing gone. This time it was Schumacher, so yeah, it's not looking good here. So you know this car is already getting a little bit wrecked here. They're still equal on the powertrain car parts. Again, we have been running a lot this practice session just to get some stats up. Mainly the stats for the car parts. We have maximum track optimization. Again, we'll make a guide on that pretty soon. But yeah, not the best start to the season. We already lost a couple of front wings, and well, hopefully we got done with all those shenanigans now in the first practice. But we'll see. I'll get through qualifying. Shouldn't be a big problem. We can actually have a quick look here, see what we're actually stacking up compared to last year. Now remember, Rick has a car that is very, very good. Potentially even the best one for this track. Tsunoda, on the other hand, has a car that is still lacking a bit in, you know, the low speed corners and medium speed corners, and generally not as quick as Rick's. So I would expect Rick here to be quite a lot quicker than him, but we'll see. And we have another.
Are you okay?
Yeah, I'm good.
What's the... Okay, so it was Tsunoda's fault this time, but yeah. We're just gonna call him in. So yeah, not a good start to the season. This rate will actually run out of front wings. Okay, so we're just gonna run the same tire, the same run plan, but we're gonna replace that front wing of his. So yeah, not a good start at all. Control might actually be the best stats. I might have been wrong.
And
And it is the revenge of the revenge of the control stat. But yeah, you see Rick did pretty well. Get him in.
Okay.
Do another run just to be safe, and we'll send Tsunoda out now. Hopefully, he can improve, but again, it's kind of a troublesome here. The damage we have received so far. And for Ricky, we're just gonna run him on the same plan. But I am happy that we gave that one front wing that we have to Rick, because we don't have another one. Although if he crashes during the race, he's gonna be very sad. Okay, luckily this time it was not Tsunoda.
Keep an eye on.
Now there's the car of Piastri. With
Piastri
not
again.
much room to move. Has to be said, that was pretty.
Pretty sure the Alpine would be a fourth there, kind of ran into the back of Piastri, even if he's slow around the corner. And they actually did target the correct car this time around. So let's see, Tsunoda is fourth currently. That's pretty good. We've got the Red Bull squish between us. That is very acceptable. So yeah, I'll get done with the qualities and we'll see where we stack up for the grid on race day. Here we are. We have completed our qualifying. Rick is third. Didn't have the best run there in the last qualifying run, but still that is acceptable. Tsunoda, 8th. Again, not too shabby compared to what it could have been. But if he did the Q1 time, he would have been further up. But that's what it is. He's also going to be eating a penalty because of those crashes in quali. So we'll be starting 11th. So he's going to have a little bit of work cut out for him here. For Rick, we are going to probably just do, as I said, a very aggressive strategy. It seems to work pretty well here. We might switch this out though for a medium stint. You just have a little bit more flexibility in what we do. And honestly, that should still be pretty quick. 31.16 versus basically 40s. So this is still going to be a very, very quick strategy. I wouldn't be concerned, honestly. We're going to give the same to Sonoda here. We did save 2 mediums in practice for this exact purpose. Sonoda has a little bit less smoothness than Ricciardo, but even then, he should be able to make something out of this. And we could, of course, go a little bit more aggressive, starting on the softs, finishing on the mediums. But I think this should be okay. And as I said, we should have 2 fresh sets of mediums for both boys. So this is the reason. This is what we're doing. The reason why this attack strategy works so well is because of smoothness. So the higher the smoothness, the more effective this strategy is going to be for you. So with that in mind, we'll try our best here. But we might need to tune down our drivers, particularly for the McLaren stream, if you follow that. Norris can make some amazing work with this because of his high smoothness. So I'll have a guide for that too in the near future on basic time strategies and smoothness. We have Rick here. Sonoda is back here. And we're just going to immediately turn on the ball assist. And Verstappen is on all the softs. Same for Ocon. But general here, we should be looking solid, I think. I would assume. So we'll see how this goes. Now the Rebels were quicker than us in quali, so we could still have a little bit of trouble with them, honestly. But we'll see how this goes. Sonoda should have a fairly simple task here of just going up the order. But we'll see how that goes. For Rick's goal is basically just going to be staying with the Red Bulls for this first stint, and then getting advantage in the following few stints afterwards. So what we're going to do, as I said, we're going to be pushing fuel. We're going to make sure that the, degradation follows the line. We're going to have to ease up a little bit if it doesn't. We're going to be pushing fuel until we have about 1 kilogram in deficit. And I think it's looking good. Although Perez and Verstappen are getting away from us right now, I'm pretty sure we will be catching up with them before too long. Once they start to tune down their settings as regression, they have to calm down the regression. We're going to be good. And again here, just a quick note. As long as you are about 10 degrees below the maximum heat, in this case 135 degrees, we're at 125, around 10 degrees lower, and you should be perfectly fine with doing very aggressive strategies. So yeah, we will allow time to pass, and we'll see where we're at once the first pit stops comes. Of course, we could have incidents here, but we'll see how this goes for us. Okay, we have another bit of a problem here. Sonoda has once again crashed. Front wing is eating some damage. He has received a penalty. So yeah, not a good start of the season for him. He's already taken out almost a full set of front wings. So that is a bit unfortunate, but it is what it is. We are going to have to probably switch up our strategies a little bit here in terms of what we want to do. So let's see, what can we do now in terms of making this work? Because we could probably just still stay on the mediums. Although probably the best thing to do then would be to make the second stint here. Because we are going to have to pit anyways. Just pit him onto maybe softs and run them full attack until this point. Should be doable. Because we are going to have to pit anyways. That front wing is going to be changing. And honestly, it might as well just be good for him to run in free air. But yeah, that was a bit of an unfortunate moment. So we're just going to create another strategy because this one is going to cancel out, meaning that we're going to need this one to know when we want to pit. So it's a bit unfortunate, but I guess Sonoda is catching up on the errors from last season. And well, as you can see, we are running out of that first edition front wing rapidly.
And it seems like Hulkenberg's had a bit of trouble.
Apparently, we've had another crash as well.
Take a look at the replay. Now this happens down at turn 8. Dangerously close to each other.
So Hulkenberg touched the back of Sonoda there. Guess Sonoda didn't return to the track safely enough. For Rick here, we are running them a little bit hotter than I said there, with just 5 degrees to severe overheating. But as you can see, the degradation is in line there, so we aren't too worried. For Sonoda here, it's gonna suck because as you can see, we're really, really far back. Potentially not pitting and fixing that front wing could have been better, but we'll see what we can do here. If we can still push Sonoda up into the points. It's going to be a bit of a struggle though, so We shall see. Rick is still running about 3 seconds behind the Red Bulls, but again, they are very aggressive for the first few laps, and as those softs start to fall away from them, we'll have an easy time to catch up. And as you can see, if you look at Alonso and Leclerc, the tire degradation, we're about 4% different, so they've definitely been running attack or even an aggressive still. So with that in mind, we aren't too far off where we kind of want to be. We'll just have to do some work here for Tsunoda mainly, and that's going to be the challenge, so to speak. We're getting closer to the end here. As you can see, we're running currently in 4th. All pit stops have been accounted for, but Leclerc is going to have to pit himself. So basically, we are in net 3rd. It's going to be a little bit of a challenge here, I think, to catch the Red Bulls, but we do have a chance. Again, Verstappen is just a monster. Tsunoda has done pretty well after his earlier incident. He's made his way back up to 11th. He too is done with all his pit stops. Norris probably isn't going to pit. Alonso probably isn't going to pit either. But we should be able to, I think, catch both of them. They do have some gaps here, as you can see. But depending on how we do on this stint, we'll, as I said, we'll probably catch Norris. We'll maybe catch Alonso. But any higher than that is going to be a bit difficult. But with that in mind for Rick here, he too might have a little bit of a problem catching the Red Bulls. But even though we might have the best car right now, the Red Bull drivers do have a pretty significant advantage over us, so that is going to be the main concern. Now, as you can see, Tsunoda, except for that soft stint full attack, lost a little bit here when he ran wide. So again, he hasn't had a very good weekend altogether. His confidence has reached a peak now, though, so we are running him on high overtake aggression. And yeah, this should make his life a little bit easier. But he can actually almost run full attack here with no problems. Same here for Tsunoda. Most of this stint was 130 degrees, just 5 off severely overheating. Rick here even had a little bit more benefit here. He too was running basically close to severely overheating. So again, smoothness might be very, very potent here. Because again, Tsunoda's had an extra pit stop compared to everyone else. He's had a couple of more errors, so we'll see. He is not running a really good car, remember. It's 12th best for low speed, 8th best for medium. So with that in mind, he definitely could have a bit of a better, better potential performance here. Now, Rick is running 33.4s. He's running 2 seconds quicker currently than the Red Bulls. So he definitely does have a chance of catching them. He's going to catch Paris here and get by him probably on this lap. With that said, we might want to just recharge here with Paris in tow. Because we are going to try and push away now with the energy that we have. Try and catch up to Verstappen, leave Paris behind. Because if we leave Paris behind, he is not catching up to us this race. He would need DRS to keep up with us. Tsunoda here, on the other hand, is looking good. Again, he is moderately overheating his tires, a little bit too much here. But if the goal here is going to be Ocon and maybe Hamilton, because it looks like Alonso... Yeah, we got Alonso, he didn't pit. We'll still be okay. Again, he is very close to severely overheating these tires. But I think actually at this point, it's just as long as you don't overheat them, you're good. Time for a bit of a spin. Unfortunately, it doesn't help Tsunoda in any way, shape, or form. And Rick is now running right behind Verstappen. We're going to tune him down a little bit here. We're going to have him chill behind, get his ERS to full, and then we're going to try and go full attack and get away from Verstappen as well, for Rick's sake. For Tsunoda, we might actually need to conserve a little bit here, have him run a little bit too aggressive on the fuel. But he has caught Ocon, and with his current pace, he will catch Hamilton too by the end of this this race here. So this is looking really, really promising for us. Rick has gotten by Verstappen. Honestly, if Verstappen retakes that before this straight, that would probably be the best. But we are kind of pulling away now, even while recharging. So we're going to deploy, attack, and push slightly for Rick to try and get him out, away from Verstappen's, reach here. And if we can do that, I think we basically have this race in hand. And as you can see, over just these few corners here, Rick has pulled a couple of seconds gap by being as aggressive as he was. Of course, the fuel here is going to be a bit of a concern for both of them. But once we're off with this main straight, we can, in the corner section here, probably recharge a little bit for both. And the main goal now will be to just tune him down a little bit so that we're safer. And we'll go ahead here and focus on Tsunoda, who is actually catching Hamilton, and we'll definitely get him, I think, before the end of this race. So, not a bad recovery. Started 11th, crashed pretty early, needed an extra pit stop, and still got his got himself back to, well, potentially 7th here. Provided, of course, I didn't jinx him and he will crash now. But as you can see, I think Hamilton has started pushing because suddenly he's doing 33.8. So I think he's pushing now, trying to keep Tsunoda at bay. But again, we should be quicker here. So with a little bit of ERS, a little bit of DRS, catching up and overtaking him shouldn't be much of an issue here. He is using basically everything he has now to try and keep his assets set at bay. And with just 2 laps to go, I don't think it's going to be a much of a problem here for Tsunoda to get by him and just push away here. We are falling down on the confidence though, because we are struggling with the overtake, so let's deploy for this next straight. DRS, ERS, everything should be enough to just get that move done. And we are going to be basically going full aggressive now for this final lap. If Hamilton doesn't get us in this straight, I think we have it in the bag. And we are going to switch the defender approach to always defend there for Tsunoda. And he should be perfectly fine. Now, if he didn't have that error, he probably would have been up there with Leclerc at the very least. I don't think he would have been able to catch the Red Bull. But yeah, Rick there with the first race win for us. Pretty good. Let's have a look at the replay.
Daniel Ricciardo beats out the competition to claim first place.
That is a pretty neat one.
Achievement. Sometimes you take the incredible skill of these drivers for granted, but not today.
I need to mute my Steam screenshot noise. Sorry about that. But that was a really, really nice one with the driver cam. Now, Tsunoda should be okay here too. I would think. Overtake button, yes.
Check reflect, this is 11.
There we go. We
It's okay.
did really well. Honestly, Tsunoda P7 is okay. It's good considering the circumstances, let's face it. He crashed, which is a big negative. But recovering back up to 7th is acceptable. Basically, the man was eating penalties this weekend to the point where he'd probably get 4 penalty points, which would make things a little bit more difficult for us. But because of the amount of crashes, I think that's why it hasn't been implemented yet. We also pick a fastest lap. All in all, a pretty good race for us here. And in terms of driver championship then, Rick leads to another 7th. Red Bulls are going to be a menace though. And they're just a single point ahead of us now. So we'll be trying to fight for the constructor win this season. And we'll see exactly how that works out for us. We had a sub 1.9 second pit stop. Can be very happy with that. Red Bull are still there though with 2 seconds. So basically the aptitude is going to be deciding on who's the quickest one. And as we said here, Tsunoda did get punished here with the pit stop. And they haven't properly implemented that from wing change yet. So I would assume that we're going to get that in a patch probably later on. Yeah, I'd say this is good. I did forget to put Liam Lawson though in the seat. But with the performance targets here, finishing qualifying position and Q2, Q3 fastest lap, we do get a decent chunk of extra change. So that is very, very nice. Now, however, with that said, we do have a bit of a problem. Payouts also increased, so we're going to get even more money. We do have a bit of a problem with the fact that Tsunoda went ahead and absolutely demolished his front wings here. So what we are going to do is immediately make 3 more of these. That should be okay. Because if we go to the warehouse and have a look at the front wings here, we had 6 of these before this race weekend, so Tsunoda destroyed 4 of them. And that is... that's pretty impressive, let's be honest. So we'll try and keep a catch up here with the with what we need in terms of components before the next race in 11 days. So yeah, we'll have to just try our best there. Apparently, we have the new month incoming. Chassis is in low stock, as you can see. Destroyed 3 front wings, technically 4. So that was not a good weekend from that perspective. Chassis is in low stock. Front wing, rear wing. Again, we do need to catch up on that. It's not a big problem though. Should be okay. And development up there. So Tsunoda gets smoothness. He gets reactions. Pretty good month from that perspective. Lawson picks up some reactions, but we do need to get his smoothness up drastically before we really want to put him in any sort of race car here. In terms of the pit crew, they're not losing any time this month, so we can just basically put them on pit stop errors. We are going to have to balance this out ourselves, so I'm just going to go ahead and do that real quick. Here we are with our pit stop training for the month. With this, we're basically going to be maximizing our error chance. Well, not maximizing, minimizing is probably the better word for it. And as you can see here, we're going to be down under 5% error chance. If we went high, it'd probably be a tad bit lower again, probably 4.4, which is highly acceptable. The only thing we're going to be focusing on going to the future now is the car building. And hopefully our, sporting director will be leveling up his aptitude sometime soon. That would be very, very nice. Now, we do have, as I said, some problems here with our manufacturing. We might just go ahead and upgrade that the factory, particularly if Tsunoda is going to be doing a lot of crashing, because just in a couple of weeks, just 2 days, we have suspension. We don't really have manufacturing capabilities, though, to catch up, and that is our main concern right now. So we might just go ahead here and invest into upgrading the factory. It's going to cost 11 million, but I think it's actually going to be worth it. Again, the other things here, it's not worth refurbishing it to me right now, because we have money that we can spend somewhere else. And generally, we are going to just upgrade the factory at once, because it will make it keeping on top of the components a bit easier. Suspension is done. I believe we also have some manufacturing projects done for both of those, so we have 2 slots now open. And honestly, we can probably survive with 3 slots, but I'd just like to have a couple more for the sake of, again, making our life a bit easier. Now, we could rush one of these for the Saudi Grand Prix, but again, it's medium and high-speed cornering, so honestly, there's no point in rushing these for the Saudi Grand Prix because they aren't very well suited for it. So we won't do that. We'll just manufacture 4. And chassis is probably something that we should be making. But at the same time, we do have some projects coming in. Gonna have to start a new one. 10 days, 9 days. So we can actually manufacture a chassis in the meantime, just to be on the safe side. There we go. And we are going to start a new project immediately. Probably front wing is still lacking somewhat. So we're going to still keep on investing a little bit of development time into it. Could make a brake cooling focus wing with a low speed focus maybe. Which sounds kind of like an oxymoron. Could make something like this. Again, it's not going to be basically an upgrade from the current front wing. But it's something that could be kind of fun to test out. So we're just going to make this. We're probably not going to be manufacturing it. It's basically just for the purposes of getting more expertise. And in terms of the cost cap, we still have 84 million to play with, so we aren't in any, sort of financial trouble there. But we could probably try and get more money somewhere, because as you can see, we get 5.2 million of a monthly balance. And, well, we get about 3 million with, well, 2.3 as a starting point, but about 3 million every race when we add in the goals. So it's still good, don't get me wrong, but it could be better. Murphy still has low morale. I don't see why, though. Like, you are the one that forced me into a 5-year contract with you. I'm not the one that did that, so that's on you, man. But yeah, let's set up our targets for Saudi Arabia. We had a pretty good showing there with Rick. So I think we're going to set 1 driver in the top 4. We could, of course, do both drivers in the top 10. It's actually going to be more value from that. 180. Yeah, we're going to do both drivers top 10. Even if Yuki has some, problems, he should still be able to get there. And both drivers in Q3 here should be a no-brainer. Now, we have actually caught up in some of our components, so we're also going to quickly check the car builds before we do get started. Chassis is good. We can install this now on Yuki's car. Rear wing is good. Side pod is also now installed on both cars. Underflow is good as well. Suspension, we're not getting it for this race, but honestly, it's not really necessary. And with this, our current car analysis is going to be showing us that we are still looking really, really promising for this race. We are the best at medium and high-speed corners. We have pretty good DRS still, although I assume Red Bull has upgraded theirs. No, it's not even Red Bull. They've actually fallen back a little bit. Is it Aston? Yeah, it's Aston that has improved their Red Bull. Improved their DRS, so we're about a percentage point behind. But remember, we have a new one cooking that's going to bring us up to basically about 80%. So I wouldn't be too worried. And again, we do have the advantage for the medium and high-speed cornering. So yeah, as I said, I don't think it is very needed. It's going to help you, probably if you are stuck a lot. But I think the main thing you want to focus on is just getting your car quicker with cornering, getting your brake and engine cooling up to make your components last so you can actually develop more parts. And that should probably be more than enough to get you into a top team position. I did focus 30 air at one point because I thought it would make our tire temps a lot cooler. But as it turns out, the tire temp isn't as big of an issue as I thought it was going to be, particularly once you get your smoothness a little bit higher up. So yeah. With that in mind, let's head to Saudi Arabia and see how we do. Alright, we're done with the quality in Jeddah. We qualified first row this time around. Still, we are lacking a little bit towards the rebel of Verstappen. His drivers that basically aren't giving him quite the advantage over us. But I think the fact that we can use aggressive strategies is basically going to be helping us out a lot here. Tsunoda qualifies 5th. He's just a couple of tenths behind Alonso. But yeah, it's basically mostly driver stats that is going to be the big thing that we're going to have to deal with when it comes to Verstappen. So Ricky on his final run also didn't have the best start. Did get slowed down a little bit in that sector 1 compared to his run before, which was actually his fastest one. And for the first run, gained about a couple of tenths. Tsunoda, about the same here. So potentially this two-run strategy isn't working too well in Jeddah. So I just wanted to point that out. That it's not all tracks it works on, but on some tracks it works really well. And on most tracks it will give you reliable, particularly where there's high traffic, it will be reliable for getting you through. But we're going to have the race here now. It's going to be cloudy. And once again, we are just going to go with very aggressive strategies. Because again, the degradation isn't too high. To the point where, as I said earlier, you can do, particularly with Norris, if you have 90 plus smoothness, this is a one-stopper you can do quite reliably. But we're going to play it a little bit safer. We are going to be doing medium, medium, soft. We did save 2 mediums in practice, did it kind of manually. Did make a bit of a setup guide while doing that. So we have advantage for this race in terms of, strategy. It is still not... It's still... Honestly, doing this could still be, again, pretty quick. It's not that far off. 32 seconds versus, an extra 5. This gives you a little bit more flexibility, though. But again, it is more risky because if you get stuck by another cars, it's very easy to lose that 5 seconds. So Rick is running out front. That shouldn't be a problem. Tsunoda is also running fairly up high. Fairly close to the front. So he, too, shouldn't really have an issue with this. So we're going to go full attack. Again, it is just the best strategy all around right now, honestly. Which is a bit sad because tire temperature could be a really, big part of the game. But at this current stage, it isn't. You can mostly just ignore it for most tracks. There are, I think, 4 tracks in this race where it won't work. And on this second season, we're basically going to be focusing on mostly the strategy here because we have gotten a car now that is really good. Development-wise, we are there. So in the tune of the speedrun, we're going to be focusing mainly race strategy and taking care of your tires, strategy for the race itself to get potentially Ricciardo his first world championship here. I think he hasn't won before, but I might be mistaken. I don't know. I'm just gonna say it safely here. I think it would be I'm pretty sure, I'm certain it would be his first world championship. What am I even saying? But we're gonna try and get him that, and then probably get Tsunoda's it too. So if you have any suggestions for things that you would like me to focus on during this series, because it's gonna be a learning experience. That's basically it. The series is for both me to learn and to teach. So, again, if you have anything in particular that you would like me to focus on in the next few episodes, please go ahead and put it, give me the suggestions in the comments. I do read everything, even though I am kind of poor at responding. Don't worry, I have read basically everything everyone is commenting, and it's been a lot. I've actually had trouble keeping up with it the last few days. So, thank you again very much for your support, everyone. I appreciate it. But yeah, we're gonna get in the race with this. And just a quick heads up here. Earlier in the game, I was saying that your weight is basically the difference between the fuel here. It's actually smoothness. The higher your smoothness, the less fuel you can get away with taking into the race. So smoothness actually has also an additional effect this year in the fact that your car is going to be lighter at race start. So we have softs behind us and to the side of us. But generally, we see a lot of mediums and softs here, so almost 50-50 should be okay. Now, I forgot to mention this in the last race, so there's probably going to be a lot of comments about this. This guy here is Schumacher. There's currently a bug with him, which doesn't show his nameplate, which is why he is kind of hidden there. But it is Mick Schumacher, the younger, the child of Michael. So, yeah, he's kind of bugged, but Alpha did pick him up. we probably saw that in the, the driver change in the early season. So you probably already know, but I thought it would be a good idea to make it clear. So at the start here, we actually had a pretty good start for both Rick and Tsunoda. Remember, both cars now have upgraded components, and we actually probably have the best car for this track by far. So with being able to run aggressive strategies, we should have no problems here. Again, as long as we keep it under the 130-degree mark, you're usually fine. Particularly as soon as your smoothness starts hitting 85 or even just above 80. But we are going to have to top up a little bit here. But we have actually kind of left Alonso behind. So potentially Tsunoda podium. We'll see. It's looking promising. There we go. That is one of those new radios where they actually update you on your position and who's in front and behind. So yeah, we will speed things along here, and we'll see where we're at in a few laps time when we get to the pit stops. Here we are. We're running 1-2, Rick and Tsunoda. We have still Verstappen with us, but we have gained some pretty decent amount of pace here to the rest of the field. 10 seconds down to Alonso, Leclerc in 4th and 5th, 6 into Sainz and Russell, Hamilton a good 20 seconds behind. And we are going to be starting pitting now. As you can see, we have been burning the tires a little bit more aggressively than we needed to. We have lost a little bit of performance than what was expected. Basically, if you dip below this line, it means that you're going to be a bit slower than the game, calculated. But at the same time, we have been doing pretty well here. Our lap times are still quicker than anyone else on the grid. And as you can see, they're running basically the same ones, 33.6s. Verstappen a bit slower. We've had a couple of opportunities to leave him behind, but haven't really been able to capitalize because, well, our drivers have also been fighting between themselves. So what I'm thinking we're going to do here is actually pit Tsunoda first, because potentially that could allow us to get Verstappen kind of left behind. So we'll be pitting Tsunoda first day this lap, and then we'll be pitting Rick the next lap. And that should basically, unless we have any incidents, again, it is Saudi Arabia. Only during quali we had 3 people crash out, mainly the Hasses. So you can imagine that if we're a bit unlucky here, we could have safety car or other problems that could slow us down. Tsunoda is actually going to come out behind Russell and Sainz, so that is a little bit unfortunate. We did the pit stop as quickly as we could though, so can't really, complain. But we are, as I said, really quickly here, so I think Tsunoda will have no problem re-overtaking them. Verstappen decides to go on. Again, we have been pushing the tires pretty hard, so we're actually below the softs in terms of tire wear. But I'd say we have been quicker, and basically Verstappen has had a bit of a benefit of staying with us. So we'll see if we can keep going with those 33 sixes. He did go quite a lot quicker last lap around, so I think he might be pushing for pitting very soon. And he's still doing 33.8, so he's still quick. Staying with us probably helped him out a little bit, but he's still quick on his own. Tsunoda has already made it through, Sainz and very soon here Leclerc. Rick is doing the same, so I wouldn't be too worried. Again, we have been running these tires very close to under the 30-degree mark, and even then, it's been perfectly fine on this track. So, once Rick is nice behind now, we'll basically have free sailing again until we catch up to Verstappen. But Verstappen is, as I said, going to have to pit, and already we basically have cut down that gap to about 10 seconds, and we'll have a huge advantage now to him once he actually comes out of the pits, where he probably won't be able to, stay with us anymore. And again, attack is just the best strategy right now. Which is a bit unfortunate because in the last game, standard was just what you were forced to do, and in this game, sorry, I'm about to cough, is basically attack or aggressive. Probably always going to be your best strategy. So again, I hope they kind of rebalance the tire wear from high temps. Basically running them into the moderate mode should never be beneficial with running aggressive or attack for more than just a few laps. They need to make it so that sustained heat into the tires kind of burn them down a little bit quicker than they currently are. Smoothness is a little bit too good at dealing with that. But yeah, we're looking good. We are going to go ahead here now and just allow things to progress to, the next pit stop. Tsunoda's running in first. We have Ricard 7th, second. And we have about 7-second gap down to Verstappen. Lap time is looking basically equal to Verstappen's. He's still going pretty quick. And as I said, Alonso, Sainz, Hamilton, Stroll, a lot of the cars they still have to pit. So I'd say we're looking at a very, very promising race here. Here we are. We're getting closer to that final pit stop. Tsunoda has basically maintained the gap to Rick here. Rick has extended the gap a little bit to Verstappen. He's now a good 10 seconds behind the leader. But we are going to go ahead and just go on the softs for the final stint. I think we're just going to pit... We're going to pit them one at a time. Because the gap is still close enough that if we hit that 5% chance of an error, it's going to give Verstappen a chance to come back at us. And let's be honest, it's better to just have Rick do another lap to be safe. And again, we have just been running full attack the entire stint. That is all we've done. And it has paid out really well. And I think Rick should come out ahead of Alonso, which is basically what we're going to be aiming for. And then we'll try and hunt down Verstappen with both our cars. And he is going to be staying on these mediums to the end, so we should be a lot quicker than him as we go. So I wouldn't be concerned really on how things are going to pan out here. So yeah, I think we potentially now have a 1-2 in hand, unless we have a big accident. But we shall see. In terms of lap times, we are running again almost, well, more than 2 seconds quicker than Verstappen. We don't have fastest lap though, which is actually a bit surprising. Considering this. So what we are going to do here, I think, is on this next lap, we are going to allow we're going to allow Rick to harvest because he has high smoothness, he'll have more to go on. But we'll allow Tsunoda to just go full attack, and probably for the last part of the stint, try and snatch back that fastest lap that Stroll has somehow got his hands on. I don't even know how he pulled that off. But let's see now if Tsunoda can actually get it. So Tsunoda snatches fastest lap back for us, 29.3. I don't even know what the... I just want to have a quick look at what is the circuit record. Circuit overview maybe. There we go. My bad. Lap record is 1:30.160. So we have already beaten that by basically almost a second in this one. So that is powerful. And we might even break it again here. So for now, we are going to allow Rick to actually cool down his tires a little bit here. Because running attack is fine. But if we can cool down those tires just slightly before this run, that is going to be good. And of course, we do need to have basically a couple seconds gap between Verstappen and Tsunoda to make this work. So we're going to be a little bit cocky here and allow him to run, as I said, a little bit cooler here on this lap. And even then, he should still be able to catch up to the cars in front. Tsunoda did run a little bit too low there on the fuel, so we'll fix that. But Rick should, and kind of needs to here for this to work, get by these two cars at least. And potentially Verstappen might actually break this record attempt of ours. So go full attack, go deploy, and we'll see how Rick does now. But again, if it goes past these back markers before the corner, he might have lost out a little bit there, but he's definitely going to be catching Verstappen before the end of this lap, for sure. So let's just see how Rick does. Because again, Verstappen could potentially slow him down enough that he doesn't get it. Rick did get it. Let's see what I actually end up with here. 28.4. So again, fastest lap before this race was at 30.1. We have improved that massively. So yeah, might need to tune things around a little bit here to make it a little bit more balanced. But yeah, that is a massive improvement from you know, last time around. But we'll just finish here up. Well, we'll just finish this race up pretty quick. Tsunoda is, unless he crashes here, probably going to get his first victory. So we are going to tune him down to standard. We're going to tune Rick down to standard too. They will be taking a little bit more risks when going attack. That is the only thing. But as your control gets higher, as your brake cooling gets higher, generally, it won't be too bad. So I was worried at the start of the season, for sure, with Tsunoda breaking 4 front wings in one weekend. But looks like we are a little bit better right now. So yeah. 1-2 is on the cards. Verstappen is third, Alonso is fourth. Then we have Leclerc, Sainz, Stroll in the middle there. Stroll actually started, I believe, last, so this is an amazing run for him.
It's Tsunoda, Yuki Tsunoda.
We'll go on this and see if we get a Tsunoda,
right
you know, picture.
Podium. And coming in first, it's Yuki Tsunoda.
Well, it was never certain, But if anything, that must make the victory taste even
Let's go with that.
sweeter.
Again, I'm going to mute that sound later on. I think it is being picked up by OBS. It's basically the Steam screenshot sound. Because that tool is kind of handy to use.
Okay, we take the flag.
Okay. I'm going to try and allow Tsunoda to celebrate here and not click. So we'll
Yuki
enjoy this.
Tsunoda really put in a brilliant drive today.
That was a really well-executed race, I thought. Major credit to the driver, the pit wall, and the whole team for that win.
Pure elation there as the driver regroups with a team that worked so hard to see this moment. And it's a sensational achievement for the Japanese driver, and one that is certainly well-deserved.
There's further delight for the team as they get to see both drivers up there together.
Verstappen doesn't look too happy, to be
And
honest,
finally
but
now the drivers can relax after an eventful weekend at the Saudi
still
Arabian
good.
Grand Prix. And down there in the Alpha Tauri garage, Kareem, what would they be making of that race, do you think?
I doubt they could be much happier. A win and a podium place. What a great way to round out the weekend.
that was pretty good, honestly. But again, yeah, we did break the circuit record here quite handily, honestly. Pretty hard there. I would like to check that out later, but for now, we'll have a quick look here. Another wins up 4 places, but Stroll here had a pretty strong performance. Same with Perez, up 14 and 10 places respectively. Stroll crashed out in Q1 and ended up starting last as a result. Perez also crashed out in, I believe, Q1. So, yeah, there was some damage inflicted very early on in quali. Driver Championship then, we have Rick still leading. We have Tsunoda moving up to second, third. A couple of points behind Verstappen. So it's looking very, very promising from that perspective too. And Constructors now, we are handily in the lead. 2 wins, 2 podiums, and fastest laps. So, yeah, looks like we're going to have a pretty potentially dominating season. But again, we have that advantage, real big advantage here early season because we don't focus on durability. So the other teams could come back at us for sure, but we'll have to see if they can. For now though, the DLH fastest pit stop report again should be good. And I'm pretty sure we can be really happy with this. I forgot about Lawson again, so I need to just get a sticker note and probably paste it to my screen. But that's good. Performance targets here, about an extra 1 million. So can probably start tuning these up. Say that one driver is going to win. Things like that. So we'll see as we go exactly how aggressive we're willing to go there. For now though, we are just going to quickly check. 5 days, 4 days. We're probably going to keep that manufacturing slot open then for now. Because Australian Grand Prix is in 11 days. And we probably really want to get 2 rear wings out for that, honestly. This, I believe, most of these, I believe, are just level up projects, but I know that this rear wing is an increase there. Well, basically a level up, not a level up, an expertise thing where we won't actually use the part. Kushmani won the race. Leclerc second. After Leclerc. Not the Red Bull Leclerc. Concerned about the suspension sim. Sign there could be structural damage. Again, we're probably just going to approve this. The main reason why you want to approve this is because as your facilities degrade, you can actually have a chance of them, by approving this, actually giving you a refurbish for virtually nothing. So we're going to approve this. We're not doing any suspension work right now, I think. So, yeah, it doesn't matter. The suspension sim is just for the suspension. So it doesn't really affect us in any way to just get that checked. Now, the rear wing here, as I said, is going to be a pretty massive upgrade. Going to bring us up there in top speed. Going to bring us up in the 30 air tolerance. Going to catch us up there in DRS effectiveness. Bring us over 80% to about 82. So all around this rear wing is pretty good. And again, that is basically because of that CFD time we put in. So we'll make 4 of these. There's no reason not to. We'll be using them in the future. And we'll probably start a new project right away. And we could actually go with another rear wing here. And what I'm thinking is that we do CFD and mile hours, another rear wing, basically completely maximize that DRS, the acceleration, top speed. Because, again, the reason why it says 50% here is generally because we have been investing somewhere else. Reality here, if you add this number, is that we're about 70% maybe. It's kind of hard in this game to figure out exactly where your expertise lies. So if we do it like this, it's actually a very good pointer on where your current expertise is. This includes staff and facilities, however. But as you can see, it's about plus 19%. So overall, we're about 70%, 74, 75. So again, we did focus a little bit on this last year's research, which is why it's higher. So yeah, we're probably going to do, as I said, another CFD hours into rowing. The underfloor kind of has reached its cap, and I think the rowing too is going to kind of reach its cap of what it can be after we've done this year. Well, this session. But at the same time, I think it is going to be just worth it from a, you know, stats perspective. It's just going to be a 6% upgrade this time around. Even if we do this, it's still going to be a slight upgrade compared to the previous one. But once we do, again, this session with expertise, with, wind total time, we should be good. Now, you're probably thinking that we should be doing intense design when we have wind tunnel time, but honestly, wind tunnel time this year seems to be completely detached from intense. Doesn't really have any effect. For research also, it seems to be detached from your wind tunnel and safety building, so it's still always level 1. Might be a bug that, but who knows. So you don't really need to go intense when you're using safety wind tunnel hours. The reason why we did that early in the season was because it is a huge boost when you're very low on your expertise. The most efficient use will be to run standard, and well, I will admit that it's me crawling to the cross, so to speak. So we'll have one of these ready for, let's see how many this can take. 29. We'll have both of these ready for Baku, which will be great too. So we could use them there, or we could wait for another upgrade. By Barcelona, we'll probably have the second iteration ready too. So we're really rarely focused this season, I guess you could say. But money-wise, it's not a problem. Rowing and sideboards are in low stock. That's fine. We'll deal with that as we get there. Again, the chassis that we currently did get here, it's not one we're going to use. It is a big increase in the top speed, but the loss in cornering just isn't making up for it. So we're not going to be manufacturing that at all. We could do some more sideboards here, just in terms of getting stats to them. Same with chassis. It does need a little bit more work for our designs. So I think we are going to be doing that. Chassis, it's either that or we do suspension. Both of these do need some work though in the future. So let's do suspension, I think. Honestly, brake cooling is it has the most effect on your suspension rather than your front wing. So if you want to get your brake cooling up, doing it on your suspension is not a bad idea. And as you can see here, this would give us an extra 14%, which would help us when we run aggressive in races. And we can even do this to get benefits. So that previous front wing, suspension design is probably still kind of in effect. It's still okay. Because mainly now what we're doing these designs is to get boosts. And once research opens, we're going to be doing that basically a lot more. Lawson up to 77, good. Even though we have been kind of neglecting him, as I said. And I think we're going to be finishing Australia. That is probably going to be the end of this episode. It's going to be a bit shorter maybe. But as I said, if there are things you want me to focus on during these episodes, because again, we have focused this time. We have basically gotten to a point now where we have the best car. We could potentially focus a little bit more on research. Could focus a little bit more on the race strategy, things like that. So if you have anything you would like me to see a little bit more of a focus on, do feel free to let me know. So no signs of structural damage. We didn't really need to do anything. We didn't get lucky and get a free refurbish, but that's fine. Sideboards design has been completed. I don't think we have manufacturing capabilities. We do. But again, this one will basically be for low speed corners. So we're going to go ahead immediately and do another design. But before that, let's just see here. We should manufacture another chassis with the slot that we have. So we'll go ahead and do that. Design-wise, again, sideboards is the best piece you can invest in terms of engine cooling. Again, we are just going to be probably just making those engine cooling pieces. So compared to the one that we currently have, this would be a downgrade, but it would be a huge increase in engine cooling. So we can make this, and if we have, again, high speed, breakthroughs later on, if we have a huge advantage in high speed, we might put this on just to save components. And I think that is perfectly acceptable to do. So we'll put both of those boys on it. And we are getting to a point now where we kind of have to be a little bit more careful with where we spend money. Because we have spent a lot. Our car is actually really good. So we could start spending and saving up a little bit of money. Probably not reach the cost cap this year, potentially. But focus a little bit more on upgrading some of the facilities. The thing is, we have options on what we can do. And that is actually pretty great. We're going to go fastest lap. We're going to try and see if we can break the, speed limit again. The fastest lap time. And we actually are going to go into circuit here and see if it updated that lap record. And it did. What is actually lap record for Sakia? Did we break that? No. 131.4. Could maybe break that some other time. We'll see. For Melbourne, what is the fastest one? 120. Leclerc 22. This is probably something we could break. So I guess we'll be focusing on that this race weekend. I'll get through practice and quali, and we'll see where we're at for the race itself. Quali here is done for Australia. Rick's home Grand Prix. So Nodia did take, pole position, but we're starting 1-2, so it's not a big deal. We can definitely handle this very nicely. Should be pretty simple. So this is okay. Williams, a bit quicker, actually qualified 10th, but we did have wet qualifying, which caused some problems for Perez, for Hamilton, and well, it's going to be interesting to see how this race actually ends up going. And I think we can beat the, the pace. Not the pace, the fastest lap. So we're going to do what we did for last one. As you can see here, doing this is not really viable. It could be if you have very high smoothness. But I don't think we can go full attack here all the way. It will not work. But we can, of course, go aggressive on these two soft stints. Go full attack on the medium, try and create a gap. Go aggressive on the softs. That should be fine. Save us about 30 seconds. We could also go medium, go aggressive, like so. Something like this, maybe. And that too could work. It's going to be slightly slower than, doing a two-stopper. This is even going to be slower than that again. So I think what we are going to be doing is just that medium to soft stopper. It's going to be probably the best thing we can do. There's not going to be any rain, so we don't really need to be concerned about that. And in terms of compounds here, Tsunoda is not going to be making that work, but he does have two mediums, so he's actually in a better position than I'd say Rick is here. So for Tsunoda, we can do something like this. And he should have no problems. We probably will be giving Rick the victory here, though, I think. This will actually be, as you can see, very quick. So two mediums and a soft. Seems to be the best strategy for, the current game. 1858 versus a potential 1908. So, yeah. As I said, we will be trying to give Rick the victory here, though. We're probably going to be slowing Tsunoda down. It is the home Grand Prix. We'll be giving Tsunoda the victory later in the year, if we can. So we're going to be making it up to them as we go. So that's fine. But yeah, for Tsunoda, it's going to be full attack. For Rick, it's going to be full attack in the medium. Then he'll have to be a little bit more passive on the softs there. But it should still be the best strategy. And because the cooling is kind of linked with the brake cooling, it is very important in this game to actually have it high, I think. With that said, though, we are off to the races. Tsunoda and Rick kind of fighting a little bit here. But we are leaving Verstappen behind. And they've actually all opted to start on hard tires. That's a bit of a surprise. Like, the top 10 outside us have opted for hard tires. That should make our life significantly easier. Because as you can see, we're on lap 1. We already have left Verstappen behind. So for now, I'll just let our boys here run a bit more aggressive here. We could, of course, turn them down also so they don't attack each other. But I think it's fine to leave them as they are right now. Tsunoda with fastest lap. Verstappen is already basically 3 seconds behind. And on this stint, if we are going to keep on gaining about a second a lap, we'll have more than enough to safely pit, I believe. This stops here should take about 21 seconds. Yeah, we'll have about enough that we can actually pit and come out ahead. And that is going to be pretty mad. Now, as you say, expected strategies here. The AI, a lot of them starting on hards. It's not a part of the expected strategy, so they will actually use alternate ones, which is nice. We'll see if we can beat that fast lap record of 120.2. Honestly, I think we will be able to do that easily. Quali, we were running about 117. And it looks like we are going to have pretty big gaps here because of the difference in strategy and, push. So worst case scenario, we will just pit Tsunoda to get that fastest lap, you know, record break. With that in mind, we are going to be speeding along here until that first pit stop.
Fans here in Melbourne are all set. Brace yourselves for the Australian Grand Prix.
You're probably wondering what we're doing here again, but my game straight up crashed just a few laps after we stopped earlier. Thought I'd still keep it in though, because, well, it's the first mid-race crash I've had, so at least that's good. Most of the crashes have been when you are about to start a race, or, you know, that's basically it. Either when we start a race or because we lock out these two buttons. But the game straight up crashed this time around, mid-race, around lap 10, 11. So it is what it is. But I would like to note something a bit interesting here. Remember that how when we did this first time, just a couple of minutes ago, everyone was on hards in the top 10 aside from us, and now they've actually switched to tire strategy. So that is kind of an interesting one. That when restarting, they actually changed the strategies. I think we are on the exact same thing we were before. Basically, we're still going to be doing it like this. But at the same time, it is a bit unfortunate because we had a huge opportunity there with everyone being on, you know, the harder compound. So this is a bit unfortunate. We'll have to see how we do. I think we won't take any chances here, though, to be fair. So we'll just keep them on what we are running them on right now. And we'll see how this goes. But honestly, good start. We're both away. We'll have to see if we can pull away from Verstappen. Probably not here with the ERS issues, but that should be okay. So, again, bit of a weird one here, I understand that, but I thought I'd just be upfront with you all. The game did crash, unfortunately, again, pretty early in the race. And it is a bit of a shame, because they were on a strategy that would definitely have benefited us more than this one. So it is what it is, and we'll have to deal with that. But again, I've probably done close to maybe 60, 70 races. It's the first time I had a mid-race one. So that is very... I'd like to say it's promising, but at the same time, it's kind of weird because there was more fixes today for crashes, so hopefully it's not a result of those fixes. But we're going to be speeding things along here. Honestly, as long as Verstappen is running with us, it's not really a problem. It worked out well in Jeddah, and it'll probably work out well here. So we're going to just speed along now to the first pit stop. We'll be tuning down our fuel once we reach about 1 kilogram of usage. Virtual safety car. We have both our cars still in this, basically. We have left Verstappen kind of behind. Ocon is out, so it is looking very, very promising here. Let's see what actually happened to Ocon.
What was that, honestly? Oh.
That was you spinning, my boy. But yeah, that should be okay with the incident. I think we're still going to just stay ahead of Verstappen. Quite, you know, quite well. I don't think we're going to be pitting, of course. I don't think anyone else is going to be pitting either. But we'll see if we have more incidents here. Australia is usually one of the more incident-filled races after all. We're getting very close to that first pit stop. As you can see, we actually eked out a huge gap between Verstappen. The last few laps here, the difference in lap times have been running about, as you can see, at 22.1s for the most part. It's a bit different here because they switched positions. And Verstappen has been running 23.3s, 23 all around. So we've basically been having about a second advantage by running attack versus his softs here. And degradation is actually quite similar, so that is kind of funny. But at the same time, we have reached basically the pit stop here, the first one. We're going to put Tsunoda onto that first set of that new set of mediums. And for Rick here, we're going to be pitting him the lap after. Tsunoda should still come out ahead of... He actually came out ahead of Verstappen. That's a bit surprising. I thought he would come out ahead of the others, but not Verstappen. So we'll take it though. And Ricky will go onto his soft stint. I don't think he will be coming out ahead of Tsunoda. Maybe. Nah, just about. Verstappen pits as well. So with that, we now have pretty dominant position, as I said. We had about 15 seconds on Verstappen before this pit stop. We'll basically have another pit stop pretty soon. In terms of time difference, so might be a little bit too dominating of performance. And again, most of it is just due to the attack, I think, which is again very, very potent. the two-stop attack strategy. So we'll see how this pans out by the end. But again, I'm a little bit baffled by just how effective this is. We are rapidly approaching that second pit stop for Rick. Not really much happening here. But as you can see, we have almost half a minute now down to Verstappen. We've started lapping people. And generally now it is, as said, probably a bit too dominating. Might need a little bit rebalances on how, particularly just the aggressive and attack strategies do kind of just work out best in this game. So for Rick, yeah, as long as he's running with Tsunoda, we would probably allow him to just run for a little bit longer. And as I said, if we can, we are going to be giving Rick the victory here. That is virtually a no-brainer. So we're going to be pitting him this lap to a new set of softs. And for Tsunoda, we might give him another medium stint on full attack and then pit him a couple of laps before the end to give him the fresh softs and push for, you know, fast laps. Could also just give him the older soft in case we have red flags that shows up. So I think we're going to do that because, again, we have a huge amount of time down to Verstappen. He's not going to be pitting again, though, which is a potential concern in doing, you know, 2 pit stops. But I think we're going to risk it for the biscuit. Put Tsunoda on these older soft tires, and then we are going to just push him to the end. And we're going to be putting him basically onto a fresh set of softs again right before the end of the race. So that could turn out very, very interesting. Ricky is just going to do his own little thing then. Of course, he too will be trying fast lap towards the end. But honestly, this should be okay. Just need to reinstate that gap within the next 15 laps of, well, 7 seconds. I think these boys are going to be able to do it. For sure. Okay. I'll be with you once we decide to go fast lap, but as you can see here, currently it is looking very promising. Rick and Tsunoda both in the 119s, which is already quicker than the 120 from Leclerc. So breaking the fastest lap here should not be a problem. We're about to start breaking the fastest lap attempt, but we have a bit of a funny little situation here. As you can see, Tsunoda has fallen behind Rick because Rick passed through all of these back markers. And they have, for the last couple of laps, been in a position where they had DRS from Rick, which basically allowed them to block Tsunoda and give Rick a little bit of a gap to him. So it's not because we're running different strategies, it's because basically the back markers decided that now we're going to be blocking you. Red flag? Oh, the Haas on Haas violence.
Oh, sorry about that, guys.
That is unfortunate, but that is basically what Haas do. We're still going to retain first and second, but this is basically going to be a drag race now. This is basically what happened last time around in Australia. I'm scared. I'm worried. I'm frightened. So yeah, we'll see how this goes. Verstappen is still third, Stroll, Alonso. No one really too far out of position here. So unfortunately, no one is really taking advantage of this flag. But this means that we basically have one push lap where everyone, including the AI, is going to be sending everything. So this is going to be... This is potentially going to be a bit wild.
Okay, understood.
As I say, we are going to try and get Rick the win here, but with how things currently are, it might be a little bit more problematic. I think we are going to just tell Tsunoda to not fight teammate. He'll basically be the rear guard here. And it might be a bit of a, you know, cowardly order, but in Japan we might be giving Rick the same order, so it cancels out 1 for 1. Verstappen is trying to catch up though. It's kind of rough for him though. And I'm curious here, what is the last lap going to be? Because we could probably have gotten the time a little bit lower if we'd been allowed to use more fuel. Verstappen is already kind of left behind. So yeah, no fastest lap attempt there. Basically the drag race ended with Ricciardo victory. I should have probably allowed him to do his victory howl
That
though.
was a brilliant performance from the Alpha
But we
Tauri
will at
driver.
least, since it's the home race, watch
It
the
was a
podium
truly
ceremony.
excellent win, with everything working together for the team and driver.
But just look at this. The overwhelming excitement for those celebrating this achievement. Well, we all love to see Daniel Ricciardo up there, and he'll be grinning from ear to ear as he adds another podium to his tally.
And that's excellent, seeing both the team's drivers up there on the podium together.
Well, it wasn't exactly a walk in the park, but it was a thrilling weekend here for us all at the Australian Grand Prix.
I think this is the podium we're going to be seeing the most this season. Rick to there, or to Rick there.
And down there in the Alpha Tauri.
So yeah, decent race there, although again, that red flag did cause some problems with taking the fastest lap. Stroll ended up getting it. He too broke the record. And yeah, bit interesting here. Rick with 70 points now, Tsunoda with 49, a point ahead of Verstappen. And we did lose that fastest lap to basically a red flag. Haas kind of sabotaging us. But we might have broken the formula here a little bit too early in terms of what is working for, you know, car development. We did not get faster laps, that's going to cost a little bit of money, but we're still making about 3 million, so it's acceptable. It's not horrible at all. And I think we are going to be ending this first episode of Season 2 here. It's probably going to be a bit of a shorter one, and again, I apologize for the scuff with the Australia race. Again, game crashed pretty early into the race, you have to restart. But I do find it interesting the AI actually switched strategies, so yeah, that was a bit weird. But again, nothing much to do about it. I decided to just keep everything in. So if that happened again in the future, I'll probably just tell you. But as I said, we kept it in here just so you can see what actually happened. But yeah, thank you for watching. Hope you've enjoyed. Hope to see you next time. And as I said, if you have anything you want me to focus on for this series, for the Season 2, anything you want me to explain, feel free to ask me, and I'll either make a guide on it or explain it during the series. But honestly, I'll probably do both. So see you around next time. Thank you very much for watching. And if you haven't already, please do like and subscribe to the video, as it helps me out a ton. Bye bye.